Here are 5 ways to perform a myofascial release, starting with one of the most common ways, a massage cane. Start off by finding an area that feels tender or tight in the muscle you want to release and place your massage cane there. Now apply static pressure to that one spot and hold it there as you take your muscle and move it through its full ranges of motion. What's happening here is as you pin down that tender spots and flex and extend the muscle, the tissues underneath it are forced to slide against each other rather than with each other, which is why it usually feels sticky and tight. Now, a massage cane isn't the only tool you can use to perform these techniques, but it is one of the best ones to reach the muscles in the back. But for the muscles in front of the body, you can use something like this thumb saver, which is perfect to pinpoint those tender areas while also saving your fingers. Now, a massage cane is perfect for targeting specific areas within the body. What if your pain and tightness is throughout the entire leg or back, and pinpointing tiny areas is going to take too long? If that's the case, then I suggest using something like a foam roller or a massage ball. Studies show that by spending 90 seconds to 3 minutes on a foam roller will help loosen the fascia around the muscles and the joints, improving both muscle flexibility and joint mobility. But I do believe there's a better way to do this. Instead of trying to roll back and forth on the foam roller as fast as you can, I recommend trying to roll as slow as you can and trying to get as deep as you can on the muscle. This means you're going to have to tolerate the pain and breathe through it as you roll out the muscle. Now, the reason why I believe this is more effective is because there's a lot of studies that show a typical myofascial release technique is slow, sustained pressure. And by moving nice and slow and going as deep as you can, you're going to be able to impact the myofascial system throughout the entire muscle a lot easier than just simply trying to roll on the surface of the muscle. And besides using a foam roller or a massage ball, you can also use something like a hand roller to target the different muscles like the legs. Just be warned that if you do press too hard, then you run the risk of bending the actual hand roller, which will then make it ineffective. Now, up next, we have what's known as IASTM, which stands for Instrument Assisted Soft Tissue Mobilization, also known as gua sha in the Chinese medicine, or I like to call scraping in my own terms. Now, scraping is when you take a hard tool like this metal like this metal piece and this wave tool, and you're simply pressing against the muscle, trying to loosen the fascia right above it. Now, to be clear here, this fascia sits on top of the muscle, which means you're not trying to penetrate the muscle, you're just trying to work on the tissues above it. So in order to apply this, you're going to have to go as deep as you can, but stop at that first barrier of resistance, which is going to be your muscles most likely. Now, on top of that as well, proper techniques with these tools recommends using it at a 30 to 45 degree angle when you are pushing against the skin, and to put the muscle that you're scraping on a stretch. That's going to help stretch out the muscle fibers and make it easier to target those adhesions and sticky areas. Now, before getting started, I highly recommend using something like some lotion or some balm. It really doesn't matter which one you're using as long as you're being consistent, because then you can figure out how much it slides, how much you use, and so on and so forth. Now, start off by applying some light strokes across the muscle that you're working on, searching for anything gritty. Anything that feels like sand underneath some paper. Basically, whenever you rub across it, you'll feel a little bit of nitty-gritty stuff. That's the area you want to target when it comes to scraping. Now, from here, perform 2 to 5 light strokes across that area, going in all different directions. The best way to think about this is to put an imaginary clock on that spot, and then you're going to do 2 to 5 strokes in each direction for your numbers. So 2 to 5 strokes at 12, at 1, at 2, 3, etc. If that's too many for you as well, you can also use something like a compass with a north, south, east, west, and then the ones in between. Now, a lot of people will tell you that the goal of scraping is to create some kind of redness, but that's not necessarily the case. The goal here is to help improve your mobility and to help the tissue's actual sensitivity so you can work on it with other kind of techniques, basically. Now, let me be clear here, it is common to see some kind of redness, but again, the idea is not to really get to that level because that can create some kind of soreness or even some bruising later on. And that might also be a sign that you're scraping a little too hard and you might need to ease up on the next treatment. Now, if you're wondering why you're doing this, well, pretty much you're trying to search for areas of micro trauma and you're trying to loosen the tissues in there. You see, anytime you get an injury, whether it's from a car accident or just years and years of having bad posture, and then you develop that kind of neck pain. All those years of chronic pain, of trauma, what ends up happening here is that your collagen, your connective tissue, your fascia pretty much will start to weave in and out of that area, but it doesn't go in an organized fashion. It just goes in whatever direction it wants in order to secure that area so it's not in trouble anymore, so there's no more pain. Well, what we're doing here is we're pretty much trying to scrape out that area, that tanglement, and trying to organize those tissues a little better. This is why it's important to follow up this kind of treatment with something like stretching or even exercises, because after you break up that unorganized tissue there, you're going to be able to use those other modalities in order to organize those tissues in the same direction as the muscle fibers, as opposed to going all around it. A little bit of rambling there, but hopefully that makes some sense. Now, another way to work on your fascia is to wrap some rubber around your entire limb and then take that limb through its full ranges of motion. This is known as voodoo flossing, and it can be thought of as an extreme version of getting an Indian burn from your brother when you were a kid. I'm looking at you, Albert. Voodoo flossing, also known as a floss band, is a great way to target a bunch of fascia restrictions at once. And when you pair it up with this little guy, you can get even more benefits. The original way to do this is you're simply going to want to wrap the band around your limb with about 50 to 70% tension in the band. After you're done wrapping around the entire muscle, using as much of the rubber as you can, you're going to tuck away that other end and simply take your leg or your limb through its full ranges of motion. This can include doing something like a squat, like a stretch, maybe even a light exercise for roughly 2 to 3 minutes. Now, if you want to bring the little guy into play, then here's how we do this. Start off by wrapping about 2 to 3 layers to provide a little bit of protection for the golf ball or whatever tool you're using here. Make sure you have it on an area that you actually want to work on and not just a random area within the leg. So for example, the spot I'm working on in the video, I'm going to be working on a very specific spot that I feel is tight and sticky. Now, after you got your initial wraps on, place the golf ball on that one spot and then continue wrapping around the golf ball until you come to the end of the band. Go ahead and tuck it away and then go back through your regular movements here by either stretching the muscle out, bending the knee, flexing it, whatever you got to do here to take that leg or take that limb through its full ranges of motion. Just make sure you're able to breathe throughout the pain. Otherwise, try to loosen it up a little bit and then repeat again. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have never really seen that technique, but I bet none of you have ever seen this one, which includes the massage gun and the voodoo floss. But first, let's quickly go over how a massage gun can help us with the myofascial release. Studies have shown that by using a massage gun, you can not only loosen the superficial fascia, but also the deep fascia as well in only 2 to 4 minutes. Which means all you really need to do here is grab a massage gun and hit the areas that feel sticky to you, the areas that are tight and the ones that are creating restrictions. But we ain't no basic bitch. So what we're going to be doing is combining that voodoo floss with the massage gun. What you're going to do is take that voodoo floss and wrap up one of your limbs, either with the golf ball or not, just like you did in the previous technique. Now from here, take your massage gun and work on the areas around the voodoo floss, the areas that are just either above or below the ends of the voodoo wrap. You see, the idea here is that by creating all that tension with that voodoo floss, by squeezing that area in that muscle, you are creating a pulling effect towards that area. So now when you take your limb through its full ranges of motion, and I recommend doing this slowly in this situation, you'll be able to feel around the voodoo floss which areas feel stuck and not moving that way, which you can then target with the massage gun. And what's great here is that since both techniques take roughly 3 minutes to be effective, you can actually pair them up together for the perfect combination. Since you made it all the way to the end of this video, make sure to go watch this one next because I know you're going to love that one as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.